Hey, fun people! Welcome to Everything Aja. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Aja. I'm an educational consultant who helps teachers and even homeschool parents prevent burnout by helping them manage their effective reading instruction. And I know that this live wasn't normally we have it already on the channel, so I did not know if I was going to be able to make it here. And I was like in the middle of like canceling on the comments, and I was able to make it. So I am literally just getting off of a plane. I mean, like, just got off of a plane. Good morning. So glad to see you on today. I'm so excited today, and I'm so excited that I was able to make it here. So I didn't know I was rushing for y'all, like really rushing for you guys because I definitely wanted to talk about this topic today. If you are new here or new to the channel, welcome. Each and every Saturday, we go live at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's what we like to call Chat It Up Saturday. Whoop, whoop. And during that time, we just talk about really hot educational topics where you get to come, share your opinion. The chat box is definitely open, and we just talk about good old education. Last week we talked about Abbott Elementary, and we compared Abbott Elementary to that of a Title One school. In fact, we looked at the TV show and we saw if that TV show was a true representation of what it is like to teach in Title One schools. So I took that topic and I wanted to double down on that even further and talk about, are we setting Black kids up for failure? So we talked about the rough environments really last week of like Title One schools and most of the schools of children in color. And so really piggybacking off of that idea and going a step further, definitely want to come share our thoughts, especially those of us that are African American or are teaching African American children. Like, are the schools that they are, going to, are we setting them up for failure in education? So I would love to hear your feedback down below in the chat box. This is a judgment free zone. So I know I share this a lot, but it is so important to me. And I think it is so um just it just blows my mind every time I see this statistic of how far African American children are compared to other ethnicities. And you can only help to think that when we talk about reading and we talk about education in a whole, how that compares to our children of color actually reading for fun. Good morning, greetings. And so this graphic just shows the students in the United States who actually enjoy reading for fun on their own time, meaning this is not attached to an assignment done by a teacher. This is a child picking up a book and saying, I want to read this book for fun. In fact, if you look at that chart, you will see that African American children have the lowest amount as here at 9 years old, and 9 years old is typically a fourth grader or a fifth grader. So that's the age range that this data was taken. And we're the lowest ethnicity. And so it makes you think, okay, so what are we doing as a culture? What are we doing as a culture that is almost stifling our children to not want to read for fun? Do I have any parents out there whose children actually enjoy reading? Do I have anybody? I know for me, my 4 year old does enjoy reading, but right now she's young, it's fresh. There is something that happens by the time they are upper elementary. And so we're talking about this. What are we doing as a culture to either, it seems like we're almost setting them up for failure. And I don't like saying that, but when we looked at the statistics and when we talked about Title One schools, last Saturday, it was mind blowing. The conditions that we are faced against, the budgeting that we talked about. In fact, when you just look at Title One schools by themselves, African American children make up majority of African American children. Look, African American and Hispanic. If you look at going across from 2009 to 2018. So over the last 9 years, that African American and Hispanic, and you see there has been an increase. There has been an increase in Caucasian children, but overall, we've always had a high number of children that are in Title I schools. And when you think about, this idea of free and reduced lunch, you think about, pride. A lot of us on here, I didn't realize that I was not by myself. A lot of us teach at Title I schools or are in Title I school areas. And so it's just interesting to see, okay, so what are we doing? Why aren't our children actually reading for fun? Or is it something that we are doing as a culture? So I'm going to bring up a few points. And so definitely am interested. Share your thoughts down below. You say your children are older now, but yes, your children like to read. Well, that's amazing. That is not the norm. That is not the norm, but that is certainly amazing that they enjoy reading. It seems like, okay, so the first topic I wanted to say, how do you guys feel like, from especially thinking about it as a culture aspect, remember, culture aspect, when it comes to technology? I feel like we it's so easy to say, well, technology came around and now children don't like to read. I feel like that's the go-to. Now let me say, the technology probably does have a major role in why so many children stop reading. I mean, why sit and read a book when I could watch the movie? Do I have anybody that's like that? I know, I was like that. I'm like, can I get the cliff notes? Can I watch the movie? And so a lot of things are, teachers would do is, well, if you read the book, then you could watch the movie. But it's like, you can, in an hour and a half, I can give you an entire summary, give you all the visual of what it's like. But a lot of times, especially if you read a book and then go watch the movie, the book is 5 times better than the actual movie. And so, but our children don't have that same love for reading. So what are we doing as a culture? Are we stifling them as a culture? Does it start from the top? If so, where is the top? Is the top in Title I schools? Is the top in the culture, or does it start at home? Where do we instill the love for learning and the love for reading in our children? Where does that start? And so I'm definitely interested in getting your perspective on that. Like where do we go first? Like what problem do we solve first? Is it the home? And I can personally say I do believe as a culture it starts in the home. If you look at it and you look at the statistics, that also over 60% of children are not considered ready to start kindergarten. This means that majority of children that start kindergarten are not ready to comprehend the kindergarten standards. Therefore, they are already starting off 1 or 2 years behind the first time that they just step into a school building. And so then they're already starting off behind. And statistics show that children only make up about there's only about a 1 year gap that they can realistically catch up. So if a child is starting kindergarten, but they don't know all their letters, they don't know all their letter sounds, they don't know all of that, then they're already starting off at about a 2 year disadvantage from other kids that did get that education, that did do like Head Start programs. And so then because statistics says they only normally make about a year's worth of progress, then what happens by the time they're 9? Well, we just saw by the time they're 9, you have children who end up not liking reading. And according to this, our culture, African Americans have the lowest percent of children that don't like reading. So it's going back to, okay, so where do we start? Where do we start? Bonnie said, I believe it starts at home, where the first teacher is the parent. Amen. And that's one of the my heart, one of my reasons that I wanted to even start this channel, because I was doing so many things with my child. I was like, there's so many parents and environments that do not know how to do that. I do want to state, like, even thinking about my daughter, that I put her in a Head Start program very early. And I do believe as a culture we are noticing that. And so there are learning centers that are teaching children now because they're seeing the statistics, they're seeing how far behind African American children are. And so do I have anybody? I know we normally have Dr. T who's out there in Head Start. I can give Head Start their props because as a corporation, it seems like they're slowly, implementing all of these daycares and learning centers that are really teaching. I know my daughter was doing addition when she was in her 3-year-old class. So we are starting to see more and more of that in our culture because it's not in the households. And so now, okay, how do we reach out the kids, the African American children whose parents don't have the means to go to a Head Start Learning Center, who don't have the money for that? How do we reach those kids? Going back in the chat box, hi Susan. You said, or are the standards not developmentally appropriate? Woo, that's a good one. That's a good one. Absolutely. It seems like we're making kindergarten what used to be first grade. No, Susan, let me tell you, 100% true. 100, well, can I say 1,000% true? I totally believe that point. And when you really think about it, like, oh my goodness, so they just redid. I don't know where you live. Let me know where are you from. But I know in the state of Georgia they redid all of the standards. And when they redid the standards, they saw they started off, on the looking at with the end goal in mind, right? So we always want to kind of look at the end goal. And so their perspective was how many children are graduating high school with college credits. And so that's where the decision makers mindset was. And so they took that number, and then they backed up all the standards all the way to kindergarten. So now kindergartners are expected to do pre-algebra. And I was like, why does a kindergartner need to be doing pre-algebra? Like half the because mind you, kindergarten, I know at least in the state of Georgia, kindergarten is not required. School is not required to first grade. Is that like that where you guys are from? Let me know that down below in the chat box. But I do know here it's not required until first grade. So what do you do with the child that's just been at home until they're 7? They're never going to catch up. I mean, hands up, they're never going to catch up. You said you're in Connecticut. Okay. Yeah, welcome, welcome. What do you teach? Or are you a homeschool mom that's still teaching? But yeah, so welcome. So is that like that where you guys are from? Because our standards are doing the same thing. They took, the graduation where they want children to be when they graduate and go to college. But now you guys are developed, like you said, the standards. Like what? It's ridiculous. These kids are literally having to do multi-step word problems in math. There need to be reading by the time they're 4 or 5. And so it's like, okay, how do we, you're a school social worker. Okay, welcome, welcome. So glad to have you here. But I love that perspective because it's like, okay, so what do we do with the standards? How do we have developmentally appropriate standards? Because it seems like and y'all, especially those of you guys that have been in education a long time, I'm sure you can see as the years go on and we progress more into the future, school is getting more and more complex, and what children are expected to do becomes more and more complex. But the more complex the standards get, the more complex our expectations of children are getting. It's like reality is still here, and because reality is still here, it's becoming like a bigger and bigger gap. And so I love that. I love that. What the first graders used to do are now required in kindergarten. Absolutely, absolutely. You said parents should encourage reading and allow their children to see them read and read even for fun. I love that solution. We were always solution forward people here, and so I love that absolutely. And I even in the classroom, like I know they took away drop everything and read. I don't know if they do that where you guys are from, but there's power in drop everything and read. Why is that powerful? At least for me, whenever I used to do drop everything and read, and where are my people that know the drop everything and read? Hey Keisha, hey, I was just talking about you. I gave Head Start a whole shout out and everything. So good morning, good morning. You said exactly, Asha. Yes. Do I have anybody that used to do Dear Time, drop everything and read? And it used to be 30 minutes of the day, and I know now we can't afford to lose 30 minutes a day, but it used to be 30 minutes of the day where everybody, including the teacher, would all stop. They would get out their book and they would read. And so that was the best practice for a long time. But then over time, that became not a best practice. It's like, you know what you could be doing? You could be doing small group, you could be doing this, you could be doing that. But there was power in the children seeing the teacher pick up a book and read for fun. That's powerful. It shows them, oh, okay, you get to model by example, you lead by example. So I love that if parents were to do the same thing and just read for fun, then that will show children that it is fun. The reason why children love TV is probably because we love TV. I know my daughter, I'm always on the iPad, and then she always wants to be on the iPad. I'm always on the computer. All she talks about is growing up to get on the computer so she can work. You say, yes, dear time. You used to love dear. Okay, there we go. There we go. See, y'all know what I'm talking about. And it was so powerful. Even as a kid, I remember doing it when I was a child. It was just relaxing. And then as a teacher, I would always make sure that I was reading too. Like, if you're gonna do dear time right, as an as a educator, you have to drop everything and read also, because that is what instills the love of learning for children. And I wonder, do I have anybody that still does deer on here? Y'all let me know. Do I have anybody that still do deer or still does some sort of program? For example, like maybe it's during your dismissal time. Maybe that's your time. While all the kids are sitting down with their book bags, and then you pick up a book and just read for fun. Do I have anybody that still kind of implements that? Everybody, let's just pick up a book and individually read for fun. Look in the chat box. Dismissal would be a great time though. It would be, because then you're already ready and it's easy cleanup. So as soon as the bell rings, your kids are ready. Okay, you do it. There we go. There we go. There we go. Yes, Bonnie. Yes. Uh, you say yes, Susan. Sometimes we push too hard. Ooh, and don't allow children to grow developmentally and learn other skills. Absolutely. And I like how you said push too hard, because as things become more and more complex, our children are it seems like they're not able to be children at some point. And so I see some children. There's this little baby, so I gotta tell y'all a story. I know me in story time. I went to a birthday party like 3 weeks ago. My little cousin turned 1 years old, and we were at the birthday party. Now, my daughter, y'all know, she does know a lot more than other children her age. Okay, she's been in the 80th percentile and above, like her entire life. But I'm not gonna sit and tell you, oh, she's a genius, she knows everything. No, we went to this birthday party, and this other little boy, 2.5, 2.5, he knows 3 languages, fluently knows 3 languages, and was African American. And it was just so, we were all sitting there like, jaws dropped. And we were like, does he play? Does he have fun? And his parents literally were like, well, we don't want him as an African American boy to be behind. And so then it's like, okay, well, we want your child to be a kid too. I remember I had one student. Oh, I was so amazed when I was teaching pre-K. A lot of you guys know I used to teach pre-K as well, but I was teaching pre-K and I had one baby reading on the 3rd grade reading level. Oh, he was so amazing. I used to love listening to him read. And so his mom was like, he doesn't really, she only let him play 1 day a week out of 7 days. The other days you are learning. And so I was like, man, man, like it paid off. So imagine if we were able to get more parents to really buy into just um modeling and teachers modeling reading for fun, allowing reading to be a part of their normal schedule, but also allowing children to still be children, because there's also a lot that they learn and play. there's I mean, we teach kids life skills and teaching them house, playing store, and all of those things teach life skills. I mean, you teach addition and subtraction just by playing store with money. You teach, how you teach life skills by playing house as well. And so there's those 2 cents. So it's like, okay, well, how do we balance then? Aja, how do we balance? How do we balance? But in looking about, thinking about, the African American child and how the family structure and the school structure is set up. Are we setting them up for failure? Because take that exact example that I was saying a second ago. It seems like in order for us to Stephanie. Hey, Stephanie. Said there's so much to learn through play. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it seems like in order for us to really create that balance in a child, what should we do as a culture? I want y'all to think about it from a cultural perspective really quick. I want to catch up with the chat box. We read that. Boop, 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 boop. Okay, so I'm not that far behind. Not that far behind. You said we occasionally do that in elementary school, but sort of a special event. Okay, so you do deer, like, okay. And so I encourage you, Susan, to find ways to just get teachers to walk around with books, even if children were to just walk. I mean, teachers were to just walk around with books, like books in their hand. Oh, let me tell y'all a thing that we started doing, that I started implementing, but my principal cut it off because people started, people always take a good thing. But I started wanting to implement it in the cafeteria and breakfast line, because the line is so long. I mean, kids will be in there so long. And I was on breakfast duty and it was just so loud. So we started doing deer during the line. And kids that were walking around reading their books, we would give them we had like these little tokens. I don't know if y'all have PBIS or have anybody that is at a PBIS certified school. Pretty much a lot of the schools out here are all PBIS certified, but that's pretty much like a school plan of behavior management, positive behavior management. So kids that were reading, we would then give them a point. And but then it these kids, so at first it was working really, really well. Kids were getting excited to read. We had books in our hands and everybody was able to read. But then over time, library books were getting messed up. Kids were not really reading. They were just bringing books to get points. And so but like I wish we would have kept it going and just addressed what not to do. But my principal was like, hey, the librarian said books are getting lost. They were getting excited at first because kids were actually checking out books. Kids actually wanted to read. But then we realized that they were just doing it to get points. They were like, I could get points in the line if I go get a book and I just sit here. We had one kid, y'all. The book was upside down, upside down. I was like, you are not reading this book. But like, we just have to think of ways to implement that, especially in our culture, because our children don't see a lot of people reading. And as you see, they don't enjoy reading for fun. But if they saw us read, if they saw their parents read, if they saw their community read more, instead of saying, go look it up on Google, we say, oh, we'll go find a book about it. Or you could actually bring a book. Oh, you're interested in, baseball. Have you ever heard of Jackie Robinson? Here's a book about Jackie Robinson. Oh, you like basketball? Oh, here's a book on Kobe Bryant. And that's one way to really get African American boys interested in books. Sports books. Sports books are like that's a win-win. You can always go right with those. He said children are designed to play. We must not take that away. Absolutely. And so then where do we find that balance, especially with my primary children? So like we were talking about, like it seems like there's a gap before they even hit kindergarten. And so, and as a culture society, as African Americans, most of our households, we are limited resources. And so that's why you see so many organizations helping families with resources. So then where would that balance be? Like, What would you tell? Let me say it like this: if you're, what would you tell a parent how to do that? Like, what would you say for all my teachers out there? How would you tell a parent how to balance that? And then I'm gonna catch 22. Then on the flip side, if a parent asks, "How are you balancing learning through play and actually getting children to fall in love with just reading for fun? What are you doing in the classroom?" Interested to know you all's answers. You said you're making my book called My Name rather staying with this excellent conversation. Well, awesome. I'm getting you to read on a Saturday, Susan. Yes. And we don't, I mean, I'm Susan, I'm guilty of it too. Like it's easy, like it seems like reading as a hobby kind of stops, and it stopped with the adults. And I think if we were to just pick up a book now, even if it's not all the time, do I have anybody as an adult that doesn't like to read? I wonder if I have anybody. I know, like my daughter, she sees me read the Bible all the time. Like that's my go-to. And she's like, and but most of the books that I read are pretty much biblical, if not all of the books that I read. And so she sees that, but then because of that, she starts to like. My daughter loves reading, but I also read to her, and I do all the voices. Her expression is phenomenal. I might do a video just to show you guys how her expression is as a non-reader. And so you can literally instill the love of just expression without even having a child learn how to read. She literally just uses her clues and does the expression as if there were words that she was reading. You said book character day. Oh, I like book character day at home and school. And I don't know if I bypassed it. Somebody said that they teach their kids to do something. Oh no. Oh, you did. You said you had your parents practice. Okay, so you had your parents practice dear also. Okay, awesome. And so then you also do book character day at home and in school. There we go. I love it. I love it. You said rather than you said you're a crazy. Oh, come on. Okay. So Susan, I know your kids. So as a social worker, I'm sure you're gonna go back to work this week like this in the hallways. Good morning, kids. Good morning, kids. And just carry the book along in the hallway. And I'm like, well, she's reading. I guarantee you there's going to be a child that watches you read and carry that book, and they're going to imitate you. And you might not be around to see that happen, but it happens. It always happens. We are constant role models. We're constant models for our children. And we don't even realize how powerful it is just to carry a book around. We don't even realize the impact we could make just by having a book in our hands. And a book, a book that was for us. And the child's like, hey, you reading that? Yeah, for me. What? You read for fun too? What? Blows their mind. And then I guarantee you at another time, they're going to sit there, they're going to remember that moment, and then they're going to do the same thing. You said you two reading Power of a Praying Parent now. Come on. Yes, I've never I have one that is the prayers over your children. So I do have that one. But yes. I'm telling you, a lot of my books are all they're all spiritual. That's all she sees me read. But that's what I enjoy reading because that's what pours into me. But a lot of parents don't read, and so then like as a teacher, you're trying to get this child to fall in love with reading, and they'll go home and their parents hate reading. And so then as a culture, what do we do about that? Are we setting our children up for failure? Because it's like, okay, it cannot be, like I said, it cannot be all on the it cannot fall all on the teacher and all on the school. There's a balance, there's a bridge, and it takes efforts of both parties to really gather together and close that gap. You said children's parties can be, come on now. Yes, I love that. Oh, I might do that. I'm already planning her birthday party this year, but that's a good one. Oh my goodness, I think I might do that next year. No, for real. Stealing that idea. I love that. Basically have parties that are storybook themed, and kids could come dressed up as their favorite character with their book, the same way we do character book day. I love that. I love it. Now that is that. Look, everybody in the chat box is like, I love that. I love the party idea. That is taking something to a whole next level. No, I really love that. I'm like, when can I do this? Can I do this for Halloween? Like, I absolutely love that idea. Like a lot. Like a lot. Like I actually might do that for Halloween. I think Halloween's coming up, right? And so I know a lot of people do like do character book day during Red Ribbon Week. But you can do that, for the end of this month for Halloween, character book day. Love the party idea, Bonnie. I think that one, look, I need to star that one. That was the idea for this morning. Everybody loves that one. Hey, good morning, good morning. Welcome, welcome. So glad to have you here. We are talking about really our culture as African Americans, and if we set our children up for failure because we see the statistics, but then what can we do to really, close in that gap? And so we then started talking about just reading for fun, dear. Y'all know these conversations. We go from one idea to the next, and I love them because they're so authentic. And then Bonnie shared a wonderful idea. She shared doing like children's parties, storybook themed, and that way they can see the storybook come in their homes or in their birthday parties. I have seen baby showers where the person says only bring a book. I have seen birthday parties where parents say instead of a card, bring a book instead. And so I think the idea is slowly starting to flow in the home environment. And so it's starting to flow. But I do feel like we still have a lot of catching up to do. A lot of catching up to do. Hey Jackie, finally caught you. Like, yes, I'm so glad to have you. Welcome, welcome. I am so glad to have you. Let me know, where are you from and what do you teach? Are you a homeschool parent? Are you a teacher? That we are in a hot conversation all about setting our children up for success in reading, and really like the culture aspect, because it's so hard when we have these deep conversations not to look at the facts. And the facts are our children don't like to read. Because they don't like to read, then you see the facts of the academics and you see how African American children are behind other cultures. But we're not reading for fun. We see reading more as a punishment. Have anybody? Oh my goodness! And I see this all the time. Have y'all ever seen reading becoming a punishment? Like, oh, you can't watch TV, read a book. Oh, you can't participate in this activity, so go read a book. Or in writing, oh, writing becomes a punishment too. And so when we as adults treat in the classroom too now, hello, when we treat writing as a punishment, what are we telling our children? I just want y'all to think about that for a second. When we say, hey, you did something not right, and now go read a book. Now I want you to write about that. Now I need you to read and write. What is a child going to end up not doing? Not liking reading and writing, because now they see it as a punishment, instead of saying, oh, wonderful, I'm so like, because you did XYZ, I'm going to go to the store and go buy you a new book. What? Buy you a new book? Most of the time we say buy you a new toy. But if we started saying get you a new book, if our rewards for the end of the week, like I have a special book I want to give to a special child, for all my teachers, like if you have a book and you want to give it to a child, make it, all week they have to earn the right to get to the book, and they don't know who is it that's going to get, I'm gonna say Bonnie, your name. Bonnie's favorite book is coming home with one person, and we don't know who that is. And so then all week they're like, I want to get the book, I want to get the book, and we amp up the book. It's that simple, but just making reading books as a reward versus a punishment can really change things. You said also hands-on activities, absolutely, for any group. We engage children and build confidence, absolutely. Absolutely. And if you also, I'm about to piggyback on that for real. Hold on, let me do her comment and then I'm about to come because you just took us to a whole nother conversation going back to the culture. Hold on one second. You said you live in Washington D.C. Okay, you teach pre-K. Oh, we was just talking about my pre-K days. I was just talking about my pre-K days. Awesome. So you are in a public school. Well, welcome, welcome. We are so glad to have you on here, Jackie. So glad to have you. This is a just an area we come, we get to chat. So do you Jackie, have you seen the other chatted up Saturdays? Because I know you said I finally caught you live. So I'm sure you've seen some of our other chats because we talked about some juicy things on here. Okay. Question, y'all. Question. Okay, so you were talking about hands-on activities. So taking that to the next step. So with hands, you said thank you. Of course, of course, of course. Thinking about that, right? I don't know if you guys know, but statistically, like it's scientifically proven that African American males are the most active subgroup. Active meaning they have the most natural energy. And I'm sure we can naturally see that in the schools, in the classroom. You can go to Walmart. If you just go to a very diverse Walmart, I just want you to just look around at children. Look at how active they are, like how much they're moving and you would see like especially like Indians, they're very structured. That's a cultural characteristic, and so that passes on from generation to generation to generation. And then you see, Caucasians does depend, but naturally they're not about to be running. I mean, sometimes, but but they're. I don't know. I don't even know what to say about that. Like, I guess it depends on the family because I have seen different variations. Hispanic children are more they kind of are more inclusive. Just generally speaking. And then there's African American children that statistically it says that we are just more active. Take that part, just the active part. Well, going to the traditional school setting, I know we have grown, but it seems like the pandemic kind of pushed us back. Going back to the traditional classroom setting, children were expected to do what? Come, sit at their desk and be quiet. Notice that the desks were not groups. We used to be those little rows. Y'all remember the rows in the school building? Come on now. I mean, I'm about to go to the next slide because there was a picture that we're gonna talk about Title One schools, but I want y'all to see the desks. You guys remember these desks that were in rows? I remember the rows before small group and all that other stuff came up. It was just rows, right? And so you have to think about it that most African American children are the most active subgroup, mind you, especially the males, and then they're expected to sit down and sit still, right? Jackie said yes. So now you're expected the most interact like I mean people that are more kinesthetic learners just naturally we're more kinesthetic learners. And I would wonder if that goes. I mean, I haven't looked this up or anything, but I almost wonder if it goes like all the way back to like slavery days because most of that was all hands on. That was all like our ancestors kind of learned based on doing. So I wonder if that kind of passed down culturally. I don't know about that. I would love somebody's insight if you know a little bit more about about that. But I could totally see that because that was so hands-on, with slavery. And so now, fast forward, children are more African American children learn the best kinesthetically. We have to be doing something. We learn by doing, and so on the job training. On the job training. You want me to learn how to add? Take me to the store real quick and give me some money. Let me figure this thing out. I know for STEM night, we used to have STEM night and literacy night at Kroger. And both we taught children how reading plays a part even in grocery shopping and how math plays a part even in grocery shopping. But they're both life skills. And he said, I love the thinking. And so think about it now. And so now African American children are more active. Okay, that's not me, that's science. And so now we're more kinesthetic learners, but yet the traditional classroom was all set up for a child to sit down and be still. Mm. So over time, as education has evolved, then became, we started learning things like, how to have a small group, how to do experiments, how to have kinesthetic learners, how, like, all of the hands-on learning. Okay, kids are not about to just learn ABCD. Let them sort their alphabets, let them draw some pictures, let them write, let them get up and say ABC, like. And we started incorporating that in our culture, right? And so then you have to also think, okay, so our kids started improving a little bit. Now we have had a whole pandemic where we reverted back to these tables. Hello. We've reverted back to that. We reverted back to just the almost like the sit down and let's learn mentality. And so are we setting our children up for success when we know that they learn best by doing? They learn best by doing. But if we don't provide them the opportunities to do hands-on activity and group work, then we are going against how our culture naturally learns best. Now, I'm not saying every child, but generally speaking, African Americans are more kinesthetic learners. And so it's just food for thought. Let me know y'all's insight on that. But I love that just y'all. I love talking to y'all. I love these talks. I'm so glad I was able to make it off the plane to get on here. You said, how about a book entitled with the child's name and written about that child? I think there's value in that. Absolutely, absolutely. Even going through the writing process with children and allowing children to write their own book. There's so much value in that. I did that in fourth grade. I still have my book. Still have my book. We went through the whole editing process. I had to write, I had to get it edited, I had to get it revised, I had to become the illustrator. We had the little hardback books that don't cost that much. You can still buy them today, like Michael's. And then we had to display. We had meet the author days. I mean, we had the whole shebang. I was in fourth grade, and I still remember that to this day. Shout out to my fourth grade teacher, who I know looks at me now like, you gave me so much trouble. But we used to do that. Another thing, there's a lot of books I know. My daughter, what is it starts with a J. It's like Jumblee was a website, but I got a book made about her. And so the one really good thing about the books that do that is you can put the child's name and you put their ethnicity, and then the book is all about her, and then the character looks like her, or for the most part. But but the family members are still Asian, so I mean they had a little bit to work on, but the main character looked like her. But there are a lot of books, and I had a book like that. It was a Minnie Mouse book that was made for me. And so that's powerful for those of you guys that are moms out there. Get a book made. There's so many publishers out there, and you can get it customized with your child's name. And that would, I guarantee you, that will become their favorite book. They will start reading it all the time. We said, no, you haven't been on here. Okay, so you've seen my videos and use some of the strategies and games during virtual learning, and your kids really enjoyed it. Woo, woo. Well, I'm so glad to have you here today. As you see, the channel has evolved since everybody was locked down on Zoom. So I'm so glad to have you here today. So we drop videos. I drop 2 videos every Tuesday and Thursday. Now I have been playing with the times because ever since it was like 8 o'clock in the mornings, but ever since school kicked back in, I think people are like at different times. So we've been, playing with different times. I've been trying to see like what's the best time for everybody. But there's 2 uploaded videos, and then there's always our Chatted Up Saturday lives. Whoop, whoop. So we are glad to have you. Now that you're here, you have to stay with us. just put it in your calendar. Just put it in your calendar. You said, what a confidence booster to have a book named after you and about you. Absolutely. And we can do that. I think, we were talking about, what was it, 2 weeks ago? We were talking about Helle Bailey, and we were talking about her being casted as the Little Mermaid. And then that transpired to us talking about the African American male, and the African American male representation out there. And we started talking about how the African American male, the little boy, the African American boy, doesn't get to see themselves portrayed in the media. They don't get to see many books about them being the heroes or being the positive character. And so if we had more books, like you said, that were about that child in particular, it doesn't matter what's out there in the media because we can't control that. But what we could control are the books that we have in our homes or in our classrooms. So definitely, definitely, definitely love that. So now I'm about to put another spin to it. We wanted to talk about what was it like at Title I schools, but we're about to go further. Now I want to talk about. So we talked about primary. We talked about what would be like in the primary grades and that preschool pre-K age, what the family can do. We talked about how parents can then incorporate reading in their households to set up their child for success. What about upper elementary? What about if you are, and I know Keisha, teaches fourth grade. Do I have any other upper elementary, second or above, second through fifth grade? What about those people or even homeschool parents that are teaching second through fifth grader that are dealing with children that already have those gaps? How do we move forward? Children that already have those gaps. So we addressed those that are at that age now. That 4 or 5, like how to get them intrigued into reading. But what if you're dealing with a child that's already behind? Have we set them up for failure? Do we just say, all right, baby, I'm sorry. Statistics say that you will only catch up about 1 year. I'm done. I'm sorry. We also know that kids that are behind in kindergarten are pretty much 6 times more likely to not graduate high school. Do we just say, oh, well? Do we just shrug our shoulders and just say, okay, well, we've done all we could do? Do we say, well, hey, I teach fifth grade and they're coming to me on a first grade reading level. So my job is done. Do we just give up? What do we do for the kid that's coming to us already with that gap? And I have to display Keisha's, the child that's already coming with that gap. For talking about culturally, and I'm just about to be real right here. My PVD teacher's gonna be like, "Oh, that's what she's doing." Culturally, let me just share something real quick, right? Culturally, right now in education, as you guys have seen on the channel, there's been a huge push. I mean, a huge like push and pull between science of reading and balanced literacy. And science of reading is a new but oldie approach, right? And it's all about explicit phonics instruction. Well, balanced literacy is more about getting children to become good readers and as they integrate in literature. What I have personally always done in the classroom without noticing any title. Well, I mean, I did balanced literacy, but I was like, my kids need, because I was teaching at a Title I school, my kids need explicit phonics instruction. Period. I've always done both. I have always done both since I've always started teaching. And I've always seen the power of having both. And that's why I can be an advocate. I know there's another YouTuber, she said the same thing. I was like, see, and when you're a good teacher, you see how both are so beneficial in the classroom. And so right now, I just want to pause and just catch y'all up a little bit about the statistics. Right now, most Caucasian children are at schools and homeschool environments that have all jumped to science of reading, which is all about explicit phonics instruction. So they're learning all of those tools and strategies to decode unknown words. They're also learning all of the tools they need in order to break down unknown words. So what is that saying about the other Title I schools? What is that saying about the African American homeschool environment? What is that saying about, our culture? Well, it's time to get on board. And it's time for us to learn the same tools and the same strategies that they're learning and they're implementing. Our children are just as capable of learning how to break down words. They're not going to magically learn. We just talked about how our kids are already starting off behind. So how can we expect them to just magically catch up? And so I want to share something with you, and I want to literally tell you how you can close this gap. And so, in order to close this gap, you have to teach explicit phonics instruction. That's the only way that you're going to get a second through fifth grader to actually catch up and close in that learning gap. And so, I want to officially invite you to our upcoming, it kicks off in 4 days. Whoop, whoop. We have a 6 week live master class, meaning it's a literally a class for 6 weeks. And we are going to meet once a week, and is a master class so that you can master explicit phonics instruction for any second through fifth grader. You'll learn how to teach any second through fifth grader how to decode words through explicit and systematic phonics instruction using the syllable division technique. That's the technique I will be sharing with you at the boot camp, of how to break down words into syllables. And I'm going to teach you how to do this with only 15 minutes a day. That means you don't need all that extra time going back trying to figure out, okay, Aja, well, when am I going to learn how to do that? I am giving it to you in this worksheet. In this workshop. You say you love reading, hearing all the great ideas to build a love for reading. Come on. I'm so looking forward to Aja's workshop on syllable division. I cannot wait. I know you are already signed up. Ooh, a lot of y'all are already signed up. And so I know all my Teaching by Design members, y'all know y'all are already in. I love it. I love it. I love it. And so literally that's what I'm going to be teaching you. So that's how I'm going and helping the culture. That's how I'm helping other people that look like me teach children like me. I was the child when I was little who did not know how to sound out unknown words. Why? Because I wasn't taught phonetically. Because most of us weren't taught phonetically. I'm just going to be real. I know for me, I was taught using sight words. I was taught to sound things out. Well, I don't know how to sound things out. We didn't know the rules and the spelling patterns and all of that, stuff. And so since I was teaching fifth grade and I was dealing with children that were really literally reading on kindergarten and first grade level, I had to do what other coaches were doing and learn explicit phonics. I had to learn how to explicitly teach my children how to decode unknown words. And I've seen it work time and time again. And this is how other cultures get ahead. They teach their children the English language explicitly. That not that they're just gonna magically know it. So this boot camp, this master class is aligned to the science of reading by teaching you structure and explicit systematic phonics instruction. And the syllable division technique that I mentioned is used to just help children split up multisyllabic words into smaller chunks. They'll learn spelling patterns, they'll learn the 7 syllable types, and they'll learn exactly how to use the spelling patterns with syllable types in order to decode any unknown word. So if you struggle with getting children to read on or above grade level, hello, that's most of our children, then mastering syllable division is the answer to all your problems. If you lack the phonics support or professional development to help increase students' reading scores, if you're tired of your children being in the red every time you look at your data, you're like, oh my goodness, all of my children are in the red. You said our children need this. Come on. Absolutely. Like it's a bigger picture, and it's time for us to get on board, right? And so syllable division is the answer to it. That's literally the answer. If you are in need of just phonics intervention, you have children that are behind, they're below, maybe they're special needs, and you're like, they need some sort of intervention for a second through fifth grader, then mastering syllable division is the answer to all of your problems. So basically, what I'm saying, mastering syllable division is the answer to all of your problems. It helps you teach children how to split words into syllables by helping them break down words into smaller chunks in order to sound out unknown or difficult words. And you're going to learn how to do this without having to do any lesson plans, having to do any planning, and by only carving out 15 minutes in your daily routine. I will teach you all the spelling patterns, like I stated, all the syllable types that you need to know in order to teach them. You'll learn how to implement an effective system that allows children to grow academically without feeling overwhelmed. Oh yeah. Like I stated, this is a live masterclass. So It's literally like taking a class. You'll have all the support you need. I will be right here with you each and every week, giving you the trainings. You'll have the videos for those that are like me. I'm like, I need to go back. I want to rewatch it. So you'll have access to the videos to go back and rewatch it. The first week, we've talked about addressing and closing learning gaps. We're talking about, okay, where are we starting with our children, and how are we going to go back and closing those learning gaps? In the second week, we'll talk about creating ongoing phonics support and structure. We'll start with our phonics system, and you also will be given interactive syllable division notebooks. And so the great thing is you're going to have the notebook, so you'll know exactly what to do with your children. I'm going to walk you through as if you are the child, so that you'll know exactly what to do with your own children. Week 3, 4, and 5 is when you will master all 7 syllable types and all 3 spelling patterns. So you'll know all the spelling patterns, when to use them, how to use them, using them backwards and forwards, all of that good stuff. And then on week 6, we're going to take all of that, because by then you've mastered explicit phonics instruction. You're going to learn how to master everything in order to get your children to actually hit their goals, with assessments and implementing data. And throughout this entire time, you are implementing this system. You're implementing this rinse and repeat system. You're implementing it over and over and over and over again. And so by the time week 6 happens, you are the pro. You have this. You don't even need me anymore. You have this. So why is this such investment? Why do we have for Curdy down below in the chat box excited about the workshop? Because this is how you get your children to grow, especially our children, because this is what we don't have. This is what we are lacking as a culture that other cultures have already tapped in on, and our Caucasian children and Caucasian teachers, they've been doing this. And it's time for us to do this too, so that we can close in learning gaps with our children. But academic growth, if that's not a why enough, then take it to yourself. You will get to save time planning. You don't have to plan phonics. Most of you guys might say, wait, we still need phonics in upper grades? Absolutely. Why you think your 5th grader is learning on the 1st grade reading level? Because they have phonics gaps, right? There are phonics gaps that they are lacking, and that is why they are reading behind grade level. And you also will gain your confidence knowing that you now have mastered phonics. I guarantee you, if you're like me, when I learned this stuff, like I said, I did not learn how to read phonetically. I didn't learn all this as a kid. So learning this as an adult, I'm like, oh my goodness, we don't teach this in schools. I know I was not taught that in school, so how to actually sound out words. So I cannot wait. I officially welcome you into this amazing masterclass. Like I said, it kicks off this week. So sign up today. You do not have time to waste. So we are getting started this week, and the doors close. So it is not one of those you can join in after we get started. No, it is a cohort who is in there, the doors close, and we are moving from there, because we're building, I'm all about building a community. So it'll be a trusted environment. We will be hosted on Zoom, so you'll get to, the whole shebang. It's literally a master class. I don't know if you guys have ever been in a master class, but they are amazing. You said teach and reteach reading strategies. Absolutely. Create an interactive and safe reading environment to close the gap. Absolutely. And so I can't wait to welcome all of you guys into the boot camp. I'm looking forward to it. I'm so glad to hear for Curdy's looking forward to it, and so many more. So if you're watching the replay, definitely sign up for the masterclass, and then also let us know your opinion. How do you feel as a culture? How do you feel that we are doing as a culture in setting our children up? Do you also feel like maybe the way we structure our home life and school life is setting our children up for failure? Or do you think we're making slowly but surely we're making stride steps towards achievement? It seems like, leaving this convo, we're kind of like, hey, 50-50, we're doing some things. There are things that we are doing. But yes, I'm so glad to have you guys. If this is your first Chat It Up Saturday, let us know. We welcome you. We do this. We're here each and every Saturday morning, on YouTube, and now we're also on Facebook as well, so you can catch us on either one. But of course, YouTube is is the main platform. Definitely, definitely. Well, I love you guys. And if you did not catch up, I know I mentioned the Hell Bailey being the Little Mermaid, then definitely catch up and watch that video right now. And I will see you guys at the workshop this Wednesday. Oh, yeah, baby. I will see you guys soon. See you soon. Bye.